getting a little more political. We kind of touched on the whole PewDiePie character assassination by the media, and it looks to me like a similar thing is happening to a media personality by the name of Milo Yiannopoulos from Breitbart News. But this is a little different.
Are you going to go so far as to say that? Because,
no, this is a little different.
Because PewDiePie was making jokes that were taken out of context and is still getting character assassinated.
Right.
Milo Yiannopoulos is a fucking troll.
Milo Yiannopoulos is a troll. You can't deny that. You can't deny it. And he said what he said. And anybody who's listening to this knows what he said. And it can't be defended. You can't defend what he said. Period. Right. You can't. And I want to talk less about what he said and what happened afterwards, because he did resign from Breitbart. His book got canceled, so he's no longer the conservative shining star. But I've got to say that it looks to be somewhat orchestrated, because these things that he said were said a while back.
Yeah, that is something...
on a Joe Rogan podcast and a Drunken Peasants podcast, which is one of the Amazing Atheists podcast, who is a YouTuber that I subscribe to and watch religiously. But, you can't defend what he said. And the reason why you can't defend what he said is because, what's worse than being called a Nazi, Chris?
Being called a pedophile.
Being called a pedophile.
Yeah.
Because he's been in the media being portrayed as the poster boy for the alt-right. And don't get me wrong, he's a terrible person. He's a terrible human being. And he says a lot of stuff that I disagree with. But he does say some things, very few nuggets of things that I find truth in. But the majority of it I don't. He is very entertaining to watch. He has been very entertaining, because I kind of became aware of him for the first time maybe right around a year ago. So I've watched some of his things, but a lot of things I disagree with. I hate the way he worships Donald Trump. I can't stand Donald Trump. I can't stand the alt-right. But certain things about the social justice movement, feminism and stuff, I do agree with. Some things.
Some things.
I don't agree with men over the age of 18 having sex with men under the age of 18. I don't agree with that. But he said that. And so the point I'm trying to make is, regardless of what he said, the damage has been done. So he got canceled to speak at CPAC. All right. They pulled his book and he resigned from Breitbart. Now, I say that the comments he said cannot be defended. And the reason I say that is because it doesn't matter. If you go into talking about what he said in any kind of light that isn't condemning, then you run the risk of being labeled a pedophile. And that seems to me, or a
at
pedophile,
the very least, a pedophile apologist.
Yeah. And to me, that seems like that's the ultimate game plan of the media's goal. You know what I'm saying? That's
treatment
the
of
goal.
This situation.
And the timing of this is suspect to me, because he had just come out on Real Time with Bill Maher and was being a dumb, stupid troll, like always. And other news people were telling him basically, hey, go fuck yourself. Those videos went viral. And then immediately after this comes out, and then immediately after he, resigned, my girlfriend even said, she's like, I didn't even know who this dude was until this week. And even though I had been aware of him, but it just seems like, if a news outlet doesn't like you and doesn't agree with your beliefs and sees you as a threat, I guess, and kind of tying this into the PewDiePie thing, you're either going to get labeled a Nazi or you're going to get labeled a pedophile. And there's nothing you can do with it. And you can't. And if you try to defend them, then you run the risk of being labeled a Nazi or a pedophile apologist. You know what I'm saying?
I do feel, though, that you're getting into the territory that Donald Trump himself believes is true about the media.
But you can't deny that there's bias in the media.
No, and
I can't stand Donald Trump. I can't stand Donald Trump. I fucking hate him, and I wish he hadn't run for president, and I hope he doesn't even get to serve out his full term. I hope he gets impeached or whatever, I do not support him. Right. But there is some truth to the fact that the media can do character assassinations on people. They did it to PewDiePie.
But
he had a reach of 53 million people. He had a farther reach than Milo Yiannopoulos.
Okay, and let me pose then a question. Okay, assuming that media outlets are capable of doing straight up character assassination and ruining someone's career, is that not their job if the person is a detriment to humanity.
But what about free speech?
He's still able to say all the
True.
things he wants to say. He just doesn't have as wide an audience anymore.
Right. But I mean, is it not? I mean, you've got to understand context, man.
Okay.
And the context things were said in, because he did say later in one of those interviews that he thinks the age of consent is appropriate. But he also said, I do see the benefit of these relationships. That's what he said. I'm not defending what he said.
Right. Well,
I agree with what
and
he
he
said.
grew up being the younger party in one of these relationships.
And had those experiences. So, I mean, it's really up to the viewer to decide, but, it's definitely being painted in a light that you almost have to distance yourself from him if you're in the public eye, because you could get labeled.
I mean, and that's the thing. And it was only this, which he said these things years ago. But it's only now that this has become like majorly public that conservative groups are distancing self from.
True.
Because he was their fucking poster child.
Yeah.
He was
And that's what it takes.
a leading voice in the alt-right
calling him a
semi-Nazi movement.
Calling him a Nazi didn't work.
No,
so
nothing.
they had to crank it up,
because there were just so many fucking closet Nazis out there that they didn't care about being called out about it anymore.
Right. Here's what I find ironic about the whole situation, because I do sometimes visit the pro Donald Trump subreddit called the Donald.
Yeah.
Never posted in there, because I'll probably get banned immediately, because if you show any kind of dissent, you get banned.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when that whole Pizzagate story got made up, they were, it was a witch hunt on that subreddit to try and find any link between Hillary Clinton and John Podesta to any kind of child molestation. And they were like calling for their heads. And some people even went as far as to shoot up the place. Remember?
Mm-hmm.
And now they are on full-on Milo Yiannopoulos defense mode. And they have video or audio and video evidence of him basically condoning underage men having sex with underage boys.
Yeah.
Under the age of consent.
Right.
And now they're just like, oh, it was taken out of context. He said this and he said this. But at the same time, they were trying to like link Hillary Clinton to some like child molestation sex ring kind of thing.
So I
just
guess
months
then,
prior.
I guess then the moral of the story is make sure that you have the evidence to support your statements if you want to destroy someone's credibility.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, bottom line, what he said, you can't defend. You can't defend it. There's no excuse for it.
Right.
And publishers have the right to distance themselves from people because of what they say. Even Breitbart News has the right. And even, I'm sure they even started coming under fire. Which, honestly, that was the biggest surprise to me, was that he resigned. Because it probably wasn't voluntary.
Right.
He was probably told, you need to resign.
Right.
So I don't know. It's just hard to have an opinion on it. You know what I'm saying? But I think it's worth talking about, because there is a weird kind of culture as far as our media these days.
So do you think then that it's a bad thing that the media has this ability to destroy someone's character, public persona?
I think the media could do a better job at painting a better picture.
Does
that make sense?
More objective reporting?
Yes.
Okay.
And less they could be saying, Milo Yiannopoulos did make these statements, but here's everything else that he said to go along with it. But then they wouldn't have a story.
Right. Well, I mean, there's still a story, because he did still say those things.
True. But I don't know.
I mean, putting it into context doesn't really make them that much more acceptable.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Because, like I said before, you can't defend what he said.
Exactly.
And what he said was wrong. So I don't know. It's interesting. It's nice to see the Drunken Peasants getting some recognition, though.
Yeah.
Because I like The Amazing Atheist, and I like his channel, and I agree with a lot of things that he says. So,
yeah.
There. Let's move on. You don't have anything else to say, do you?
I mean, we could talk about the ethics of the media if you want to, but we could also move on.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Let us know what you think in the comments below, and should we not even try to tiptoe around these kinds of subject matter in the future? Because I just feel weird even talking about it.